There are two words I just can't seem to hear enough these days: uncertain and unprecedented. As if no other words in the English language exist. English doesn't have to be your second language to know that words like unparalleled or unmatched, extraordinary, or unknown exist too. I'm so tired of hearing uncertain or unprecedented times, if you haven't noticed.
Uncertain economic environment.
I know. All this to describe the feelings we are feeling as we wade in the financial waters we are all navigating through at the moment. It's hard to say if this is a buyer's market, a seller's market, or if it's a market, a circus, the upside down. I don't know. What we do know is that these are unprecedented. I'm just kidding. What we do know is that these are times. They're times where value is more important than ever. Social media is soaking with ads, and I can't be the only one who is noticing there has been a substantial increase in networking events, workshops, luncheons, hands on events, markets, you name it. Someone made something, or is a coach, or consulting something, and you now must buy into it. All this to say, it is now more difficult than ever to convey value as a service based business. And truly, the best time to pivot out of hourly services and package your service with a neatly tied bow. Are we ready to dive in?
I love it. Let's do it.
Welcome to our show, The Business Behind Small Business. In every episode, we're diving into an area of what you need for a lasting business. We're going to drill down today into how to convey value and also how to build packages. We are your hosts, Savannah Stone, and
Tiffany KO.
no one gets to a million without getting a little dirty. I love saying that. I don't know why. It's like how to get away with murder. I can't say that television show
Can
without
you
saying that.
say that without an accent? Or
I
is this the
can't. I don't
English
know
like
why.
the English
No one
S
gets to a
accent just
million
come
without
out with
getting
it?
a little dirty. I don't know why. Anyway,
You may have a voice acting career in your
I
future, I'm just
might.
saying.
I might. If this whole thing doesn't work out for me, if AI takes my business, there might be a place for me in theater. Theater.
Always have a plan B, that's all I say. Plan B and diversify like hell.
There's a lot of business behind small business, so let's get to it.
Let's talk about packages.
Let's. But before we talk about packages, why don't we talk about value? How are we conveying value? What do you think, Tiffany?
That's a good place to start, though, right? Service-based businesses, I think it's the toughest thing is, especially if you do your stuff remote and it doesn't
Yeah,
show up every day, like
right.
really out of sight, out of mind is like a real danger to all like remote service-based
Mm-hmm.
businesses. So I think you got to get clever, right? Like I think like you may be like, oh, I'm doing such a good job. I know I'm doing so much for my client, but you got to put yourself in their shoes and see what they see.
Mm-hmm.
They were there. What do they see you doing? And is what you're doing really of value to them? It might be of value to you. So you and I were just talking about this, right? About how there's certain financial professionals in our field that gets incredibly geeked out over spreadsheets. I may be one of them. I have definitely spent hours perfecting a spreadsheet because I'm so in the zone and so in the flow, right? It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And I'm the first to admire a beautifully put together spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a small business owner who doesn't do that type of work, who the hell cares?
Right. And I was the one telling you, I was like, I felt my brain cells melting. While
Yeah.
while my brain cells were like, this is above my pay grade.
When
I'm out.
somebody was showing you this miracle spreadsheet and all the
Yes.
different functions in it and how well it's tied together and how it has all this information.
Mm-hmm.
But if that information, one, isn't conveyed in a way that your client understands or cares about or needs, they really do not care about all of the tabs, pivot tables, lookup formulas you put in your spreadsheet. Like, just nobody cares. So you may think that's a lot of value. And there are some of us who appreciate that value, right? But as a customer, I can see why they're kind of like, and now what? It's like, so you spend all your time doing this. Am I paying for this by the hour, by the way?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. I agree. Like I paid you to do this. That's great.
Yeah. I used to tell my staff all the time when I had my outsourced accounting company, and I'm like, do not ever bring up in a conversation to our clients about how much time and how hard it was for you to reconcile their bank accounts.
Mhm.
Nobody cares.
Right.
Right. Now, you and I both know in our world, in our world of what we do, like reconciling the bank account is actually a very key component, right? If you can't get that basic part right, a whole bunch of other things just doesn't work. But it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense for you and I to talk about that stuff. Like, don't talk to a client about that because again, they find no value in it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
So, we ended up focusing, I feel like in my experience, a lot of it has to do with communication, frequent touch points, and then sending communication about things that is really useful to your clients. So if it is, just open communication, letting them know that if they're looking for a certain something, so let's just say that in our world they're looking for a financial reporting at a certain time because they want to see kind of how they did last month. We all know accountants do lagging indicators most of the time when they do these financial reports because you can't finish it until the month is over, right? So as quickly as you can shoot that out, that's what's important. So if a client is saying, hey, what's important to me is that I get to see my financial reports by the 7th of the month, right? Then really your value is keeping them up to date and letting them know by email or by call, or however you want to do it, is that one, are you going to be able to do it by the 7th? And two, if you can't do it by the 7th, because most of the time the client is holding you up because they're withholding information or forgetting to answer your email, letting them know and pinging them and annoying the heck out of them. I've had clients tell me so many times when I had my company that as much as our staff ping them and you would think that that's annoying as hell, they're like, we totally appreciate the reminder. Please
Yeah.
just keep bugging us until we get you what you need because we know that we're standing in the way and we appreciate the fact that you're kind of keeping us in line so that we can get to what we want.
I would add to that the definition of the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Tell me more.
So, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is educating my clients in what I'm talking about because oftentimes they don't know what I'm saying. So, I can only speak to my industry, right? So, I remember being in a meeting with a client and I was he was in plumbing. He was a plumbing business. And I kept talking about the P&L, the P&L, the P&L. And eventually, and this was so many years ago. This was before I realized I really need to start defining the words that I'm talking about. And he was like, I don't understand why you are so fascinated with my parts and labor. And I was like, I was like, oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. And that was when I realized,
And loss is
yeah,
what you were talking about.
exactly.
And he
So
kept
that's
hearing
when I was
parts and
like,
labor.
let's back up. I don't care about your parts and labor. This is what I'm talking about. So I was like, oh, you know what? I thought to myself, oh, you know what? Every client that I talk to, whatever word I use is going to be defined to them. And that's part of intercommunication, right? Any word that I use might mean something different to them. So P&L to me means profit and loss. P&L to him means parts and labor. So every client I start off with, okay, these are the words that I'm going to use when we have conversations. These are what these things mean. This is what an asset is. This is what a liability is. And so when I'm showing you your balance sheet, this is the reason why I'm showing you your balance sheet. When we're talking about your net profit, this is the reason why I'm showing you your net profit. So and obviously I'm talking from an accounting point of view, but if you're in a service-based industry, let's say you're in marketing, you're going to show a client the reason
Open
why,
rates, click rates,
yeah, click rates.
website visitor numbers,
Exactly.
things like
What's
that.
the reason
You
behind
guys,
that?
yeah.
And you're going to want to explain to them the reason why things take a long time or what trending means and like all of that. Or if you're in the wellness industry, you want to explain to them the reason why X, Y, and Z. You know, for a client, that to me is a lot of value because you are valuing their understanding of things and intercommunication. I don't feel gets valued enough.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually add to that and put another level on it is that when you communicate the whys, well, so one is clear communication and having good intercommunication really is a value in a sense that you're making it easy for them to do business with you,
Yes.
right? Nobody wants to sit there and hear a whole bunch of technical mumbo jumbo
Mm-hmm.
um, for like 30 minutes because one, now you're just wasting their time. And then two, like, they have no idea what you're talking about. So who
Right.
cares, right? So there's that. But I think the next level I would add to that is, communicate clearly, explain why, but always in the context of the goal of your client.
Right.
What is your client trying to do? Right? If they're, let's say, for example, their goal is, I need to go to the bank to be able to get a loan to be able to fund my company. And that's the reason why they're working with you as a bookkeeper, because they're trying to get this loan. And the bank says, hey, your financials are upside down. They're all over the place. Like, we need you to clean this up before we can even consider you, right? In that situation, let's just say you're sitting there, you're explaining to them what the P&L, profit and loss is, not parts and labor, right? Which is a common mistake. I always say that. Like sometimes when you say P&Ls, I was like, yeah, I'm sure that sounds like 10 million other things. And you can tell when somebody's like, what the hell is a P&L, right?
Right.
Anyways, so let's say you're spending time, you're explaining to them what a P&L is and stuff like that. But which is important, right? But then at the end of the day, that is also something that is important, but a little bit less important when it comes to getting a loan at the bank. What the bank want to look at is they want to look at what's on your balance sheet, right? They want to look at your accounts receivable, they want to look at your accounts payable, they want to look at what your, liquidity ratio is. They want to look at these things that are all on your balance sheet. So as the service provider, you should be explaining why the P&L is important, but more so, you should be explaining even more so what the balance sheet is important and steer the customer to actually look at their balance sheet, knowing what their end goal is. And now the
Mhm.
conversation is now tied to what their end goal is, and now you're creating value.
So to me, the definition of value or the driver of value is emotion. And the driver of a sale is emotion, right? So, and I have this conversation with people all the time, whether or not they're my clients. I give people unsolicited advice, whether they want it or not. And it's great. It's great. I am that woman that just talks to you whether you're trying to walk away from me or not.
And this is the first time we're the opposite of each other. I am the complete opposite. I've learned to shut my trap and never give unsolicited advice. So unless somebody asks me, you got to let them ride.
Yeah, well, nope, I just keep on talking. But anyway, I actually just, was it yesterday, I think? Yesterday or the day before, I was just saying, if you want to understand what your value is, you have to understand what kind of an emotion you are evoking in a person. What kind of an emotion is your service evoking in a person? Is it stress that you're releasing from a person? Is it anger you're releasing from a person? Is it passion that you're invoking in a person? Like, what is it that you're invoking in a person? Because whatever that is, that's what you have to bring to the forefront and remind that person in order for them to see your value. And I'll give you an example, and I use this example all the flipping time. I always use Tiffany's. I always use Anthropologie. I always use because everyone is familiar with them.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you walk into an Anthropologie, they give you all the senses. They give you all the senses, right? It smells really good in there. It looks beautiful in there. They hit all of your senses. You know what to expect when you walk in. It's very expensive products, but they have a way of making you want to be a part of the Anthropologie experience, right? But it's product. You can touch it. It's tactile, right? You can touch it, you can feel it, you can smell it, but you can't do that with a service-based business. So, what do? You have to invoke an emotion. What kind of an emotion are you going to invoke in a person in order for them to feel your value? Do you agree?
Agree or disagree? I'm just trying to process it in my head.
Okay, same thing with Tiffany's. You walk into Tiffany's. What is it about that specific blue, green, I don't know what color it is, box? You walk into a Tiffany's, and Tiffany's has done this, right? Like I know a million, I mean half of my ethnicity are jewelers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I can get jewelry from anywhere. But to have a Tiffany's bracelet or a Tiffany's ring, there's something about that.
I see.
But
You're talking
why?
about brand value.
But
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. You're talking about brand value
But
in a
again, but
sense.
that's
Yeah.
tactile, right? That's tactile. That's something that you can touch, you can feel, but not when it comes to a service. So when you are a service, you have to be able to invoke that. But how can you invoke that when somebody can't, they're not going to smell you. They're not
Hope not.
right? Exactly. And if you're a remote company, it's not like they're walking into your house and you're serving them, like you're not going to invite them over for dinner. So it's not like you can invoke that in that manner. So then you're like, okay, well, what am I going to do? What kind of an emotion am I going to invoke in this person? What am I going to awaken in this person? Well, you have to think about what kind of an emotion do you want them to feel when they are with you, quote unquote, as in your company. Do you want them to feel safe? Do you want them to feel secure? Do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel whatever it is that will be the driver of the sale? And that will be the driver of a lifetime client.
So I think what you're saying is basically like the value, you're creating value by the experience you're giving your customer, essentially
Yes.
at the end of the day. So it's a customer experience, which is not wrong. I think it's actually a lot more harder to achieve and something even more important to focus on when you're service based, especially if you're doing your services remotely. And a lot of that value and that experience comes through how you communicate with your customers, right? And what that's going to look like. So it's not even just, it's actually a little bit, it's definitely beyond just brand value. We're talking about just your interaction with the customer. And it is something that services need to think about, service-based companies need to think about. It doesn't get thought about that often, which is why you get a lot of people who, like in our field, who are very technical people,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in finance, whether it's in any, even marketing people do this all the time. I'm just can't tell you the number of marketing conversations I've been in recently. For some reason, I'm sitting there going, I actually, you know what, do not care about all the technical stuff behind the scenes,
Yeah.
right? I just
Yeah.
want to know, like, how are you gonna increase like 3x the phone calls I'm getting from people
Yeah.
who's looking for my or our client service online, right? And they go into this deep dive about like just SEO and like like the backlinking and why like this is so important, and I'm like, yeah, I don't, nobody cares, right? And
Right.
but
Right.
that was the experience they're giving, is like, let me walk you through all the details. But the question is, does the customer want you to walk you through all the details, right? It's experience you're trying to get at with them, something where it's, don't worry about it, we got you,
Yeah. Well,
right?
I
That's
would
an
think
emotion, right? You make them feel safe. You make them feel like
exactly.
you have their back. You make sure that you're watching out for them, that you're on the same team with them.
Right.
Or it's emotion that you're really conveying at this point is, watch all the stuff that I can do and watch all the effort it takes to go do it. And let me school you on how this actually works,
Yeah. I would think
right?
that a marketer is going to make me feel excited. I would want my marketing team to make me feel super excited. That's the kind of emotion I want them to invoke in me.
Yeah.
If
Well,
I have an
combine
interior
the,
decorator, let's say, if an
yeah,
interior decorator comes to my house, would that be considered service?
yes.
Yeah, okay. So an interior decorator, I want them to make me feel warm and cozy because my home is my safe space. So I want them to make me feel like my safe space is going to be taken care of. So that's what I'm talking about. Like those are examples of what I mean. Like I feel as though every service-based industry has a responsibility to invoke an emotion in order to convey their value. And I don't know that every industry does that.
Well, they probably don't think about it by much, so I think they do it. I think every time you touch point with a client,
Yeah.
you're communicating and you're kind of putting out there what the experience is. You may just not think about it, which is not great, right? Because it's not very intentional. But I think there is a hard and soft side to this whole value conversation we're having, right? The soft side would be kind of what you're talking about, the emotions and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But on top of that, like it has to be coupled in reality, equally important, which is results,
Right.
right? Because most service based business, if you're a service based business and you have clients who are small business owners,
Mm-hmm.
which I think that's probably a lot of listeners we have who are consultants and things like that, right?
Right.
They do need tangible results, right? So
Right.
you can't just sit there and spend their money and ask for a retainer for all these packages you're doing if you have no results. Like, so similar conversation we've been having with one of my clients when we're talking to marketing agencies. You can tell me all the crazy, how much I'm ranking on page one or whatever, but if my phone ain't ringing and I'm not getting enough people to actually, you're not generating leads for me, I don't really care, right?
Right.
Like I can't have one without the other. Like I need to have both, right? But then again, there's some things to be said that if you can generate results, I may be able to overlook some of the softer side. But to be quite honest, it's also be really easy to steal my business because I find somebody else who can deliver that result and I actually like working with them. It doesn't feel like I'm going to the dentist every time I'm on the phone with them. I'm going to switch as soon as I can, right? So you kind of have to have both in order to kind of keep your client with you, which again translates to what is the value you're bringing to the table.
So speaking of dentists,
Really? I thought you were going to be like, speaking of packages.
We'll get
Segue
to packages
time.
after we speak about dentists.
Okay.
I promise. I promise there's a connection. Well, my next point was going to be that another way that in which you could bring value is to have a connection to your clients. But I understand if you have a whole lot of clients, it's really difficult to have a personal relationship with every one of your clients, right? Like, that's nearly impossible to do. And this is what brings me to my dentist. My dentist is very popular. You can see why, because this man will make you feel like the most special person in the world when he gives you his 20 minutes of time, right? He has a lot of clients or a lot of patients, whole lot of patients. But when you're his patient, he makes you feel like you're the only patient he has. So if you have a business, this is another way in which you bring value. When you have a business with not a whole lot of clients, maybe you have a manageable amount of clients. Make your clients feel very special by touch points. Send them a card, maybe, shoot them an email, maybe give them a call, take them out for coffee, whatever it is that you feel you need to do or your time allows you to do. But whatever it is, make it scalable. And then from there, when you have so many clients that you just can't handle any more than that, don't take yourself away from it because you never want your clients to feel like they're a number. The moment that disconnection happens, and I'm speaking from experience, the moment the disconnection happens and there is no emotional tie left, there won't be a reason for them to stay with you anymore once they feel dissatisfied.
Well, I think that goes into, and this is a whole other episode to speak about, right? And again, for anybody who has a service-based business, like you need to hone in. And I know this is hard, and I'm doing this with my clients, which is why I tell you, I know this is hard, but you have to track your customer journey. You have to track your customer experience. From the moment that your prospect, well, when the customer was just a lead or just a prospect, all the way through where they buy from you, and all the way through where they stay with you for the 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, what does that experience looks like? And then you can intentionally make sure that they're getting the same experience that they started with all throughout, right? But that is a really difficult thing to do, but so worthwhile when you have that clarity. But again, something that service-based businesses don't think about very much, but is so much more key because again, we don't have something tangible for somebody to walk in. Like their experience is their value at this point with you, right? So on top of that, the results plus the experience is really what's going to really convey your value as a service-based business at the end of the day.
Yep, absolutely. And now we can talk about packages. Okay, so let's talk about packages. Where to begin? All right,
Okay.
so
I'm a big fan of packaging services. I really am. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So many moons ago, you had, I should make this confession. I'm making a confession right now. Um, don't try to stop me. Many moons ago, I had a conversation with you and you said, go packages, do it. You'll never regret it. I went packages, I got scared, and then I stopped doing packages. And you said, you're going to regret it. And I said, I know. And then I regretted it. Now I'm
This is
going
a
back to packages.
conversation I don't recall having, but this is good.
No, it's great. I don't know how many Hail Marys that I need. Um, but yeah, this is my confession.
Okay.
Uh,
Nobody will hear you. I will not tell a soul.
thanks. Thanks. Keep it to yourself. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong because I, again, speaking for myself, and I know I'm not wrong when I say I am speaking for myself, but I'm also speaking for all of our listeners, spend a whole heck of a lot of time curating a really great team and really great processes and fantastic platforms and spend a whole heck of a lot of time and money making sure that my clients get the best of the best of the best. And there should be compensation. There should be a value compensation for that. There, long time ago, there was a really fun reel or video or whatever it was. This woman who was made a fun song about, I made this thing, and you're not paying because for the thing that I made, you're paying for the time that I put into making this thing. It was a long time. I'm gonna have to find it. It was
Really?
really
What
cool.
she said?
Yeah, she said it was like a scarf that she had made or something like I don't remember what it was. Hopefully somebody else remembers what I was talking about. No, I'm gonna have to look for it.
Okay. I was
But
like, I'm gonna have to be highly critical of that statement or whatever she just made.
no, it was pretty cool. But what she meant was like you're not paying for you're not paying $10 for a scarf. You're paying well, whatever it was, $100 for the scarf. You're paying $100 for the time it took me to make the scarf, the material for the scarf, the blah 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 for the scarf. Like that's what she was talking about.
Ooh,
So the value of the scarf is what
I'm
she
still
was.
highly critical of that of her
All right,
thing.
fine. Maybe that's a bad
Yes, I'm
example.
probably about to be canceled by saying so. So
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. But no, I mean, she's not wrong in the sense that it's not the scarf itself, right? She just kind of went a different direction. I would have thought she would have said, you're not paying for the scarf. It's not the time I put in the scarf, but you're paying for the confidence of the scarf that you wear when you walk into the room, or you're paying for this unique color of the scarf that your friends, other people cannot get, or like how warm it's going to keep you if you went to like, North Pole or something
And
like
she
that.
might have said something like that. I don't
I
know.
just was surprised that she went back and talked about the time because if you go anywhere about the time, like, yes, is it valuable? Sure, but I don't
Nah,
know.
I think she
Feel
talked about the expertise it took to make it.
okay. So if you're talking about the experience, that makes
That's
sense.
what I think that's what she was talking about. I
Okay.
don't think it was a scarf. It was something else. I think or maybe it was a painting or something like that. Whatever it was. She was like the expertise that it took to make this, the schooling, the education, the colors that I chose and why I chose them and like all of this other stuff. It's like this isn't just some random, let's go with painting. This isn't just some random painting. This is all of the education behind this painting that you're paying for. All of the expertise, I guess you can say, that the value behind all of this. And she's not wrong. Uh I think sometimes people undermine the value of value.
They undermine it or they
Yes,
undervalue it.
undermine. I
Undermine.
think
Okay.
sometimes people undermine the value.
Like themselves to themselves,
Yes,
basically. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Because, well, I think it's because that's why I was kind of like harping on the whole time factor is because they're equating time to value, right? Time isn't, it is value, don't get me wrong, right? But
yes,
it's only value if the time is the problem you're solving for. So if you're saving your client time, there is value in that. If it
yeah,
took you 20 hours to do something, in that very black and white statement, there is no value to that, right? Or if there is, it's a much lower value than you probably would like, right? Because if there's no skill and there's no experience behind it, there's not much to say there
right.
about that. So, yeah, so I think we actually had that conversation probably together with somebody who was talking about like pricing themselves and we were like, well, you're not pricing for the time that you're taking to, I forget what it was, to consult or something like that for an
Yeah,
hour, right? What you're pricing is all of the 20 years of experience you've had to be able to advise that client for that 1 hour. So now all of a sudden, instead of the 1 hour, which could be maybe valued at $50, $75, now you're valuing it at $300 an hour because you went and got the master's, you went and got the 10 years of experience, you went and did all the challenges and thought through all the problems to be able to have this concise conversation in 1 hour to solve your client's problem. There's value in that, and you got to make sure you price yourself accordingly. Um,
so
yeah,
speaking to that, why don't we talk about how to price yourself accordingly? I recently went through this, and I'm not going to go through all of the things that I did.
feeling a little trauma being recalled right now.
But I will say that there are some very important things that you should take into consideration when you're creating your packages. There are some financial reports that I pulled when I created my packages. And I also pulled some reports to get a sense of what my overall year was going to look like. Um, Now, mind you, some of the reports that I pulled are more of the kind of reports that a CFO would pull. So I'm not saying that everybody should be pulling these. And if you have a CFO, um, then maybe work together with them to put together your packages. And if you don't have a CFO, then maybe Google some of this. But you definitely want to factor in your G&A, which is going to be your general and administrative expenses, because I don't think that people take that into consideration when they're creating their packages. Because there's ancillary expenses that come into play when you're doing your work. It's not just the actual physical work that you're doing, right? Um, and Tiffany, stop me whenever you think that there's something I'm saying that's incorrect, or you feel like there's something wrong with what I say. But you do need to factor in some level of operating expenses. Excuse me. So if there are certain platforms that you have to use, if there's certain products that you have to use, if there's certain tools that you have to use, you're going to have to factor in the cost of those in your packages as well, if you're not factoring them in some other form or fashion.
Yeah. Yeah.
um I personally ran reports on cash runway, uh my receivables aging, my margin by service, what my net income trend was, and my labor to revenue ratio. And I did that because I wanted to know what it was going to look like switching all of my clients from hourly to package. How was it going to affect? Was it going to negatively affect, or was there going to be any effect to my cash runway? Meaning how much money would I have to work with to float while switching everyone over? Also wanted to know, because I offer different types of services, how to calculate each of my clients, because right now I charge them by the hour, by the service. When I package them, well, what percentage of each service are they currently using? So I know how to grandfather them, if you will, grandfather them. But then those new clients, how do I create a package with those services? Because there's accounting, there's bookkeeping, I have admin as well. So how do I create a package that's fair and also takes all of them into consideration and percentages them out appropriately? So if you're offering more than one kind of service, you want to make sure that you percentage them out correctly. The ratios are right.
Right. So I think getting into the details of how to create those packages, if our listeners are interested, we can totally do a whole other episode about that, right? So there's a couple of approaches you can take
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what works. Just kind of taking a step back to talk about packages. So there's two things. One, there's packages, and then the other thing is how you price those, right? So you can still have hourly priced packages and you can have value price packages. So value price being like flat rate or something like that. That's a little bit
Yes.
easier to understand, right? But the whole idea about having a package is you are the expert in your field. You should know what the client needs to get to where they want to be. So if you create a package, it's just a lot easier for a client to be able to choose what they want to buy without having 50 different options because they're
Absolutely.
not the experts, right? They can't tell you that I need A, B, C, and D in order to get to where I want to be. They're looking to you to do that. And if you can simplify it into a package, into something that is one, also very marketable, two, it just makes the buying decision a lot easier. So why do people offer three options? Well, there's a reason for the three options. Psychologically, there's a whole thing behind it that if you give
Yes.
them three options, most likely they're going to pick the middle option because then they anchor their pricing, yada, yada, yada. But also you simplify the choices. And especially if you work with small business owners, we all know decision fatigue is a real damn thing.
Yes, it is.
And it's too much information. So if you simplify it, I'm more likely to buy as long as I know that your packages speak to the problem I am trying to solve by hiring you. Which is why if you simplify the process, you shorten the sales cycle, which means guess what? You can now sell more to more people. And
And I
that's
will
the
say,
idea.
yeah, and I will say to that if you do have variables, like in my situation, I do have variables, you can always create add-on services.
You
Uh,
can. You can always have a menu of ad hoc, right? But then here's the thing. This is why there is this beauty when you package stuff, right? Because
especially if you have different like revenue lines, whatever the case may be. Not only is it simpler to your client, it is simpler for your staff to understand what exactly they need to deliver, because you're not giving a client a way to package what their services are in 50 different ways. And now your employees have to go remember and say, oh, okay, client A needs B, C, and D, client B needs A, B, and C. Like it just becomes really hard to keep up with all of that. So again,
Yeah,
you're simplifying things for clients, simplifying things for your staff and your employees. It just all around holistically just makes things easier for everybody. But
absolutely.
not going to lie, just like you did, creating those packages, it's you got to really think through it, right? Because
Yes.
you need to figure out what variables work together to solve the problem, and then you can simplify and kind of like contain it within a three option world.
Hmm.
All
Yep.
right. And that sounds simple, but it is not easy to do. But once you have it, you'll see that I know that for my business, once I had it, I was able to sell so much quicker. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Because they just looked at it, they got what I was saying, they picked the option, we're done. Sign me up. Good. And my staff knew exactly what they needed to do because I had trained them on what each of the three options meant. So if client chose B, this is A, B, and C. This is how we set them up. Managers knew what to do. Like it was just a beauty to watch when it all
Yeah.
clicked together.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to kind of like push the button, go, push the button,
Yeah.
go, push the button, go.
This is what we want in small businesses, especially if you're an owner who's trying to alleviate yourself out of the sales position, because that's all we end up defaulting to, right? Because typically you can hire out for everything out. The last position you hire out is the sales. And then from that, the second I feel like challenge and door that you have to get through is how you're going to price it. Are you going to do a fixed rate, or are you going to do an hourly rate in which you kind of calculate and accumulate, and that becomes the pricing, right?
Well, so you tell me, or you tell us, what do you think is a better option? I mean, there are options where you could say up to up to 10 hours of service or up to
There is no one option is wrong or right, to be quite honest, because so it also depends on how much risk you want to take, right? If you go the hourly rate and you accumulate that, the risk is on the client. If you go the fixed rate, the risk is on you because you need to make sure that you're controlling your costs. Otherwise, if your employees are paid by the hour or they're salaried and they're all over the place, they can easily turn your margins upside down because they went overboard and spent way more effort than you thought you would be paying for that, right? So that's where, um, honestly, if it's of an interest, it's a whole other episode for us to kind of go down that hole of like, how do you figure out what works for you instead? But, pricing in general, I feel like it's not just a cost buildup, which is what most people do. Is they are like, well, how much do my people cost me? How does my G&A cost me? Which is not a bad way to do it either, and that's a safe way. That should be your bottom. Like that's your cost buildup. That's my bottom. Add a margin to it. I should not go lower than this. And the rest of it is really opportunity. So you can't just look at what your cost is. You also want to look at, well, what's the opportunity and what are the alternatives my customer can go and buy from, right? So I remember one of the things I did is, yes, I did a cost build up to make sure that whatever I'm offering, and this is when I was like trying to figure out what the pricing is. I would do the cost build up, that would be my bottom line. And then I thought about the client and was going, okay, if they didn't hire us, what are their alternatives? Well, the alternatives is they hire somebody full time that they need to train, that they need to manage, that they need to offer benefits to, right? Or they can go hire another outsource outfit, alternative there too. So just if we just say those two options, but then, also considering, well, what's the pain that the client is trying to resolve here, right? They don't want to train somebody. They freaking don't want to pay them benefits. They want the ease of being able to switch somebody out if they don't like them, or they can cut off the contract, or they don't have to worry about workers' comp. They don't have to worry about any of the insurance, any of that, right? So, I mean, oftentimes I threw out the cost buildup as the bottom price, and I went for the max, depending that I'm going to compare myself to them hiring somebody full time, even though we're part time, we're outsourced, right? But I'm going to charge that amount because guess what? They'll look at the two and be like, well, yeah, but I mean, it's a no brainer. I'd rather hire you guys because I don't have to deal with an employee, right? Well, mind you, I probably increased the price and then some because let's just be honest, why
yeah,
not?
yeah, yeah.
Right? A little extra 10% wouldn't hurt. Like, I have a company. You have a company behind you. You never have to worry about PTO. When somebody's out, we have somebody who's going to replace them. These are
Yep.
all value propositions that an employee can't give you. So let's just say in a very simplified world, you were playing around and you're like, hey, cost build up, my employee plus administrative and everything, my cost is like, I don't know, $50,000, right? Because they're doing a part-time on the client. And then you add your margins to that, whatever, and you end up with, if you're at $50,000 for the client, you 2x it, so it's $100,000 for the year or something like that. Right? And then you're like, oh, who can they go out to the market to hire for $100,000, right? Then you just kind of play that numbers game, and then maybe you stick with the 100,000, and you're like, okay, so that is the, divided by 12 is the monthly rate that I feel like I can charge. You got to make it so that you're standing in the client's shoes and figuring out what alternatives they can do. And if you can go for the higher number, go for the higher number,
Totally.
right?
I feel like you're right. This is definitely a good conversation for our next episode because we could really dive into packages.
For sure.
And I feel like some of those reports that I was talking about are a good idea for our clients. Our clients? Wow. Our
Well,
listeners. The hell?
you do need to know your cost, right? You can't willy-nilly just throw out a number, which is why
No.
you're so
And
good.
and I'm not going to be gatekeeping. I want everyone to know what I really truly had to go through to create these packages, but it is so much more than just saying, okay, well, I charge this and this is how many hours it takes, so this is what I'm going to make my. Oh, no, 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 my friends. No, no, no. Nay, nay, nay. It is so much more than that. I pulled 50 different types of reports. I cross-tracked and cross-did and I calculated and I formulated. I felt like a mad scientist with my vials of things. Because and I believe me when I say I kept having to go back to square one and back to step one and back to step one because it took a lot of calculations for me to make sure that I found packages that would not screw me, would not screw my staff, and would not screw my clients, and would be easy to follow, easy to understand, easy to train. Because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it once and I'm going to do it never again. Like, this is it. So you want to take the time. And so I think it's a good idea for us to do that with our next episode. Let's dive into it.
Well, let us know when if you want, part two.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been fantastic, and I am so excited for our next episode. And we are into season 5, and so
Well, hit the thumbs up, the like button, 5 stars, whatever. If we
absolutely,
get a lot
please
of
hit,
if we get a lot of responses to this episode, that'll be our way to know,
absolutely.
hey, we can do another one to really kind of dive into the details of how, one, how do you create the packages, and two, how do you price those packages, right? And kind of
And
help walk you through that.
absolutely. And if you have any comments, questions, anything, we are more than happy to do a shout out during an episode. So, all of our shows are on your preferred podcast platform, social media, and YouTube. We'd love for you to also share our episodes. And if we have any links, where there will always be posted below. And until next time, mind the business behind your small business because all great successes start small.
Bye.